I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Meanakeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on? We made it. We are here. We are live. And I didn't think we were going to be here this early, Taylor. I thought we were going to at least have our Sunday nights to ourselves.
So naive. Been on the beat longer than me. How naive you are, friend.
Seriously, I did. I thought it was just going to be a, go to bed, Christmas Eve type feel. Get yourself hyped for all the things that are going to come tomorrow. But no, the Patriots are already after it for the 2025 new league year, which technically begins tomorrow with the legal tampering, or as it is now called, the negotiation period, opening tomorrow at noon before the new league year begins on Wednesday. But as things happen, as players are cut, players are then allowed to sign beforehand because they're technically not tied to their contracts. And guys who you have on your team, you can extend those guys as well. So the Patriots have since made 2 moves tonight. The first one being they signed former Titan
and BC
Eagle linebacker Harold Landry to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract, $26 million guaranteed, and it has a maximum value of $48 million. Now, you mentioned it. He played with Mike Vrabel with the Tennessee Titans. He was drafted by their regime. He is 28 years old, stands at a whopping 6'2", 252 pounds, and has played some pretty good ball in his Tennessee Titans career. So he's sort of developed as a nice edge rusher, sack monster type of player. We'll get into him. The Patriots also re-signed tight end Austin Hooper to a 1-year, $5 million contract worth up to $7 million. Someone who really helped Drake May develop in his first season. He ended up hauling in, where I got the numbers in front of me, 45 passes for 476 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Patriots last season. And again, he returns on a 1-year, $5 million deal. Some other news in the NFL that just dropped rather recently. DK Metcalf was just traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 2nd-round pick, and then signs a 5-year, $150 million extension. So a lot of stuff happening even early on. Tomorrow's going to be the big day, but some stuff Patriots-centric happening now. So, Taylor, we're here to react to it. So first and foremost, before we dive in to all 3 separately, high-level, 30,000-foot view thoughts on what just happened over the last hour as we got ready for this show.
It happened really fast, and it felt like Jamie and Sherwood for the Patriots was kind of the domino that set off everything else. Because I remember when it happened, when Jamie and Sherwood signing happened, I tweeted, a little joke about it, thinking like, oh, this is probably going to be what gets him to sign his deal, because all the linebackers started signing. And then lo and behold, thanks a lot, Jerk. Speaking about myself, he actually ends up signing the extension with the Jets, which was always on the table, but the Patriots were supposed to be one of the teams that were going to be heavily in on him. But then after that happened, Harold Landry, as soon as he was made available, first it was via trade potentially from the Titans. We were like, Patriots, maybe they send like a, late pick swap or something. That didn't come to fruition, probably because they wisely were like, you know what, he's probably not going to have a robust market. He knows us. We know him. We'll wait till he gets cut, and then we'll have the reunion. Now that they know they're not going to get Jamie and Sherwood, we saw they kind of threw Harold Landry a bit of a bag. It's more than you would expect for someone who, as everyone knows by now, he had less than a 5% pass rush win rate, which was the worst among edge defenders last year. So, yes, that's a red flag. He still was productive, though, so he can still get at the quarterback. I think he had 9 sacks, which led the Titans. However you get it done, remember Matt Judon, a lot of his sacks, I think like half of them were usually one-on-one wins. Some of them were effort sacks, and then a lot of them were him on line games. So I'll get more into what exactly Harold Landry brings, but he made a lot of sense. We knew it was happening. I think bottom line, though, it gives the Patriots the only player on their roster who has years of proven every down experience at the edge spot. Before this, you had Anthony Jennings, elite run stopper, okay as a pass rusher. You don't really want him on the field in those situations ideally. But now, between him, Keon White, more of a pass rusher, unrefined on the edges, has shown flashes. You're hoping he takes a step forward. But now in Harold Landry, you don't have to reach in the draft, right? I really wanted an edge rusher, and we hadn't really heard many other connections outside of Landry. It's more been linebacker, defensive tackle, corner. Now we know that this is probably going to be their first option on the edge. So I like them adding depth. And then Austin Hooper made all the sense in the world. Again, I feel so annoyed because I was literally going to tweet Austin Hooper's about to sign in like 2 minutes as I was, handling business for the initial news, Hooper re-signed. But one of the few downfield weapons that Drake May had, they clearly had great chemistry. Doesn't have you go into the offseason with a void at that Y tight end spot, the inline guy. Hunter Henry's more of a move for them. So both signings, not surprised, as he made all the sense in the world. You're obviously hoping to see more. These are not the end-all, be-all, but the kind of veteran signings that you wanted to bring leadership back and reset this program.
Yeah, and we'll sort of wrap Austin Hooper here because we know what he brought, and I know it's a little bit different, with a different system coming in and whatnot. But what he was essentially another security blanket for Drake May last season, someone who he learned to trust down the stretch. And you mentioned it in a tweet earlier, and we had talked about it when we talked about our re-signing fits with this team, where he had played with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, and he had played with Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas. So he knows both coaches. He knows what they want to do. And he sort of developed himself into a leader into that room last season. So I think for the 1 year, $5 million, keep the continuity alongside your quarterback. That's a great signing. No complaints, especially for the money on it.
And he already has experience with Vrabel and McDaniels, as we've touched on a billion times already. I know. So that's at least you're going somewhere where it's familiar. I think he might have had other options, which didn't seem to be the case last year. I don't remember when exactly it happened, but he basically said these were the guys that gave me a chance. So now it just, again, this made a lot of sense. Also his relationship with Hunter Henry, which is really cool. When the guys make bonds and they got pals and also two of your more reliable guys. So
two guys too who are, again, you mentioned leaders, but guys who get it. Austin Hooper was one of the guys down the stretch of last season where in his media availability would basically be like, look, we either need to shit or get off the pod here. We can't, we can't think of these last 3 games as let's look forward to the offseason. We have to work hard for our families and earn our money and things like that. And so he was always a leader. And so a good person to have back in the room. So again, Hooper signs the 1 year, $5 million deal. We will break down Harold Landry a little bit more here. So let's sort of do so. You mentioned his dip, at least in terms of pass rush win rate production last season. I wonder if that too is frankly his one season away from Mike Vrabel in the system he wanted to run last year.
Terrell Williams and all those guys, yeah.
Exactly. So he's kind of away from what he knew there. But he was a Pro Bowler in 2021, 50.5 career sacks, 2 interceptions. You also mentioned the 9 sacks last year. We wanted to sort of pull up some of his PFF stuff. So I'll pull up that right now. And Taylor, you can kind of flush through that and sort of tell us what you think and how he can fit into what the Patriots and Terrell Williams want to do here next year.
Is your screen black? Okay. Mine was kind of, my computer's being super weird right now. Okay.
Lost you. I lost you for a second, but you're back now. Okay.
I'm back now. Let's go into premium stats in that right
premium
corner
stats.
down there.
Got it. Where the heck do I go? Do I search? By player. By player. It's okay.
It's in that white column to the right, yeah.
I got you now.
Yeah.
By player. Landry. Do you see it? Do you see it now? Is it not working?
My screen is super delayed. I don't know if this is working. If it's not I don't know if we can scrap this. It's fine. I looked it up earlier. We're good.
I don't know why it didn't work,
and it didn't work.
Let me see if I can fix it while you keep looking through it.
Yeah, no, but I've already looked up a lot of his stats, so I can kind of just riff now. So, yes, the pass rush productivity has gone down. Now, you do see his bread and butter is the ghost move. Basically, it's just when you run at the offensive tackle, pretend like you're going to basically use just a one-arm stab where you get into his chest and walk him back. When you usually shoot the hand, it prompts the offensive tackle to shoot them back. And what guys can do when they have really good bend is they take that hand away, dip underneath the offensive tackle's punch, and then they're able to get around the arc. This is Von Miller's go-to move. He really not popularized it, but it was really his move for a while. He had ownership because he was better at it than anybody else. Harold Landry can still do that, even though he isn't as explosive as he used to be, which is why I think a lot of the pass rush productivity has gone down. But he can still win.
We got it here?
Yeah, that one still works. Yeah.
Okay.
But he can still win in that way. Still, again, getting after the quarterback. Now, what I really want to focus on more is his run defense because he's been a very good run defender. Actually had his best season last year. He was top 10 alongside Anthony Jennings in run stops. And we can scrap this, honestly. This is a bad idea. I can just riff. But he was one of the best in the NFL at his position in tackles for loss and run stops. I know that's not going to excite people, but I need to emphasize that last season, this was still one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So it's not like all they needed was pass rush. They were getting run on pretty consistently as well. It's also going to be a different scheme where in years past, Jelani Tavai could bump down in the line of scrimmage and be the guy opposite Anthony Jennings. They haven't really had that consistent edge setter opposite him. So now you have two guys who can do that. And with Harold Landry at least being a veteran who can give you discipline on the edge, something you didn't really get a lot last season from Keon White, from even veterans like Dietrich Wise. If you have Keon White at defensive tackle, you pair him with a Milton Williams or a Tershawn Wharton or one of these really good pass rushers. If you have two guys on the inside wrecking havoc, really, obviously you still want guys who can win one-on-one in the edge, but their job is mostly just don't let the quarterback get outside, let him panic in the pocket, and then you clean up. So I still think the Patriots are going to try to address situational pass rusher on the edge in the draft, maybe in free agency, although guys like Baron Browning are off the market. There's not a ton of great options there, maybe like a Derek Barnett. But yeah, I know I've already been getting crap because I said, oh, look, the Patriots now have the best, edge setters in the league, maybe, or the best edge setting duo. And people were like, oh, yeah, in a passing league. Well, yeah, as, Belichick has said, as I'm sure Vrabel will say some version of, you need to earn the right to rush the passer. And I do think that now that you have Jennings and Harold Landry on the edge, and Landry still being able to contribute in pass rushing situations, you're in much better shape already than you were last year.
So question on the edge not being necessarily as much of a need now, right? So they come into this with clearly needing some help, and we wonder if a guy like Abdul Carter can fall to number 4. That doesn't push you away from taking him at 4, does it? Say he falls there, would you still take the generational player, or would you then trade back now that you have someone who can potentially set the edge for you for the next couple of years?
No, I think that Harold Landry, I think he got a lot of that money because he's going to be kind of a leader at the position.
Yeah, good.
Is able to show the new guys how it's done in this system and all those things. But I do not think it's the kind of move where you're like, oh, we're set on the edge. Like, this is the part of free agency where you're trying to get guys in the room that you're familiar with that can kind of help you rebuild the culture. And then again, bring these young guys along and just be consistent, go-to guys in that sense. And then you're hoping through the draft you upgrade. Like, that's what free agency is. So this is not, the end-all be-all type of move. It's just a solid addition to a roster that had no depth at all at the edge position, and not even really one every down starter.
And I think it's a good way to sort of set the foundation that we talked about in our last show, where we did our whole, what was the word? Not our best free agency, our dream free agency on Friday when we did the show. And we were talking about, go get the big fish and go get your Milton Williams and trade for a DK Metcalf or a Brandon Ayuk, which we'll get to Metcalf in a second. But there's also the aspect of setting a foundation with guys who you can trust, who are going to do the right thing, who have been in the league, who are veterans. You look at, now it's not entirely similar to, for example, Washington bringing in a guy like Bobby Wagner last year, but what they did was bring in guys who were familiar with what they did and with who Dan Quinn was and who Cliff Kingsbury was. They bring in a guy in Zach Ertz. And I look at these two signings as sort of similar to that, where you bring in a guy on offense, and you bring back a guy, you bring in a guy on defense, you bring back a guy on offense who can really command a presence and be a leader and show the ropes for everybody else. And the guys who you give the money to, and this is, I heard this on the radio from Breer the other day, the guys who you give the money to, everyone else is going to sort of flock and be like, oh, these are the types of people that they want us to be on this team. So we're going to go
standard setters
and lead. Right. They are the standard. So I like the sign. Go ahead.
And then also we have to talk about Zadarius Smith as well. He was released by the Lions. He's a guy who, one, obviously worked with Terrell Williams last year in Detroit, but also earned a Pro Bowl with Mike Smith. I believe he followed Mike Smith from, I think it was to the Vikings. I know they had been somewhere. Maybe it was
from the Ravens to the Vikings. That sounds right.
Yeah. So Zadarius Smith is somebody who has experience with Williams, with Mike Smith, who's the outside linebackers coach. So if you're looking for more of that veteran situational pass rusher type, I think he's absolutely somebody that we should talk about if he wants to be on a rebuilding team, because he's really been more of a one-year merchant going to teams that have a shot in the playoffs. I don't know if he'd want to come to New England, but given the connections, he absolutely is somebody we got to talk about.
Yeah, since 2018, he's been with Baltimore, Green Bay, Minnesota, Cleveland, Detroit. A couple double-digit sack seasons over the last couple years. I don't want to even really say fell off. He had 9 last year combined between Cleveland and Detroit. I think that was a deadline deal for Detroit after they lost Aiden Hutchinson. And he came in. He's 32 years old, so he's a bit on the older side. But, that is someone to certainly look out for that they could bring in because, again, of those connections. And if it's a shorter money deal, sort of in that same leadership / I know what I'm doing under these types of coaches role. So, again, they bring in Landry. That's another one they can look for there. We'll get into DK Metcalf. We'll get into some other guys the Patriots have been connected to before tomorrow. But first, we got to take a quick pause, listen to a word from our friends at PrizePicks. We'll be right back, and they will continue. Then we will continue in to the Patriots free agency. Maybe we can call it a frenzy. Can we call it a frenzy yet, or are we just sort of setting the stage?
Not a frenzy yet. Not a frenzy.
Yeah.
Yet. This is an appetizer.
It is an appetizer. All right, here's PrizePicks. We'll be right back. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on PrizePicks. They now offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. And the second half of the basketball season is officially here, and the race to the playoffs is heating up on PrizePicks. So don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. You think LeBron James will get more than 24 points? You think Giannis will get more than 35? Cook up those hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season. All you got to do is sign up on the PrizePicks app today, download the app, and use that code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Alrighty, that is PrizePicks. Head over there, use that code CLNS, $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Played a good one last night. Well, it wasn't a good one. It was a loser, but in that Celtics-Lakers game Saturday night, I had Jason Tatum to have more than 2.5 threes. He hit that in the first quarter. I also, unfortunately, took Luka Doncic to have 8 assists because he was on all of a sudden over his last 10 games. He failed. He only got 2 assists, and it was a loser. But keep playing on the app. Download it. Use code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, PrizePicks. Head over there and run your game with us. Okay. Let's get into the biggest news of the night. I know Josh Allen signed a mega deal, and it is sort of adjacent to us because it's the ACs. He signs a 6-year, $330 million extension, but not entirely Patriots adjacent. So we'll save that for another time. But the big one, DK Metcalf gets put on the trade block last week by the Seattle Seahawks, connected to several teams over the last, call it 4 or 5 days, LA Chargers being the big one, it sounded like. Someone had also floated that he wanted to play in Houston. And then it comes out today that he wants to play in a warm weather city with a team with a quarterback and also wants to get paid $30 million a year. I then tweet out a picture of like a beach and say Foxborough, Massachusetts, and get a couple of ha-has on the Bird app. But long story short, it felt like that was the thing that DK wanted. I thought
it was a picture of you in your vacation home.
Yeah, it should have been. But nonetheless, DK gets traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second-round pick and then signs a 5-year, $150 million contract extension with the team. Now, this one bothers me. I think, yes, DK is not a true...
Jonathan Jones, really quick. Jonathan Jones is hitting the market officially per Karen Gregian.
Okay. That is definitely...
expected,
correct.
But at least now have the news on it. We don't have to go that deep into it.
Yeah, that's something that when and if he signs elsewhere, we'll definitely hit tomorrow when we get into our free agency show tomorrow. But so yeah, DK doesn't get traded to the Patriots. I know that Daniel Jeremiah had floated on Friday too that he sounded like everybody in the league thought DK was going to come to the Pats because of the money and because of the assets they had.
What did I say? And what did I say?
That everybody just says.
I said, what is DK saying? I
don't
really care what the league was saying.
That's
what is DK saying, and where are we going to end up?
But did what DK said matter in this? It doesn't seem like it because he got sent to Pittsburgh.
Well, that's why
with
I
a
was just
team
like,
without a
situation where,
quarterback.
like, I don't think the league even, like, and not even the league in that sense, but also I think people underestimate the level of this that we'll probably touch more on. But
Yeah.
like, what does it mean if you are paying DK 5 years, $150 million? Like, again, we'll get into it, but that's why when it was said, I was just like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
And I get that too, but I look at it, I'm like, if DK had a say, I don't think he would be going to Pittsburgh. And so it sounds like this was the best offer that Seattle got, which his asking price, according to Diana Rossini, his list was a team with a quarterback, a warm weather city, and $30 million on the market. He got one of those in the trade.
I mean, I think we all knew. If you even looked at his options, you knew that he wasn't going to get all of that. Every
LA?
option you talked about,
LA has a
was,
quarterback, oodles of
actually,
cap
yeah.
space, and a warm weather city. That's the one. And maybe
Oh,
Houston.
do they have a lot of cap space?
They have a ton of cap space. I think they're second behind the
my bad,
Patriots.
my bad. I
No,
didn't
you're
think
fine.
about LA. But
LA's the
still,
one
like,
spot.
it felt
Everywhere
like
else was iffy.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, if you like LA so much, why are we not hearing more about LA? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes
Yes, I do.
like you start hearing momentum. If that was your perfect fit, then go to LA. I was like, I think it's
I'm
going
with
to be
you
what
on
it
that.
always is with Myles Garrett today. Money is what it's ultimately about. What I will say, I'll just come out with it. I like that the Patriots aren't desperate. Like, yes,
but they have to be desperate. They're not good.
I understand, but not for a guy like Metcalf, where he's someone who does have red flags. Like even Ayuk is someone where I'm kind of iffy. Like, I'm someone who's saying I will throw a bag at Chris Godwin if he wants, not 30 million, but even for Godwin, like if it got to 30 million,
but he also has red flags with the injuries.
Like I think that I understand Drake may needs weapons, but like, you have the quarterback. You really need him to have a number one. Get Tet if you want somebody like that. Like, there's other options than giving DK Metcalf 5 years, not 3. 390 I would find more palatable. 5 years, so this is basically a 3-year deal. Like, I don't love that, honestly, especially because you don't know if you're gonna get Godwin. You don't know if you're going to get a Darius Slayton, like the adult in the room. If you end up with DK and some, like a Josh Palmer, where sure, he may be like a good leader and a professional, but he's also not going to be the kind of guy where it's like, oh, he's done it before. He's had a 1,000-yard season. We got to listen to him. It's kind of like Kendrick Bourne. You love him, but you also, he hasn't hit that high where you just inherently respect him as a pro and as an accomplished veteran in the same way. And I wanted to talk myself into DK, and he is productive, but for 5 years, 150 million, I'm cool with him passing.
I am so like, me and you don't fully disagree on a lot. I am like totally, I don't want to say I totally disagree with you because I hear what you're saying. On my end, though, to be able to send the 38th pick to Seattle for the opportunity to sign a relatively top flight wide receiver in DK Metcalf to a $30 million contract extension per year, I'm for that. They have nothing. They have cap space. They only would have to send 38 for DK Metcalf, a pick that they should have spent on him 4 or 5 years ago. Now, I know it's 5 years later and it's different. I have a hard time of them not being desperate. Like you said, I find it hard to make excuses for them not doing everything they can to get a wide receiver when this was the only asking price. Like, it's not like they sent the first and the third and signed him to even 35 million. It's like, and it's not like it was this and it was LA where you knew you were losing out because they had the quarterback and they had the warm weather. This is Pittsburgh with Justin Fields and a $30 million contract to go play in the Steel City. Like, I'm sorry. I just think that if that was the asking price and they got outbid for that and Seattle was just going to send him wherever they wanted to, because clearly it looks like they did, I just think that's weak on them. And if they weren't in it for this type of price, I think they should have been in on it, and it's disappointing to me.
One thing I'll say is I would even have been more okay with this contract if they already had Godwin in-house. I'll say that. I would still be like, this doesn't make me feel comfortable, and I don't love it. But again, if they had like Godwin 3 or 4 year contract, like, all right, they balance each other out. Even if DK has his thing, Godwin will be like, yo, like, he'll keep it copacetic. I will say that. I think it's timing as well. Like, if they were like, yo, Patriots were making this move right now, and they were like, I don't know, I can't have him be. And I understand it's not going to be a popular opinion. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But also, like, look at where DK and I actually no, I'm not even going to get into that. I don't want to nitpick because he's really good at something that's hard to do in the NFL, which is be a good deep threat. I just, again, man, for the contract length, for the money, I just don't love DK. If AJ Brown shakes free again, like still my thing is be active on the trade market and throw almost anything that Chris Godwin wants at him. That's my thing. Like if you have Slayton and Godwin, that's fine. That's fine. You have.
I want more than fine though.
I understand that, but okay, then in the future, draft like it. In next year, the first round, if you have a heavy receiver, like people are thinking too short term. Yes, you should be aggressive in getting guys, but I'm sure they were aggressive, but I think there's a level where for your situation, sometimes it's just foolish. And I wouldn't even say it was foolish. I would just say it's a risk I wouldn't be comfortable taking. But again, it's what they continue to do. If we go into the season and it's Chris Godwin, but he's not playing for half the year and everybody else and nothing's changed, yeah, I'm going to be upset.
Then you can look back and say, why didn't you throw a 38 for DK?
Exactly, but this is a live podcast right after the fact. I'm just saying, for this money, I'm cool with not DK. For someone who has like been racking, I feel annoyed.
He does rack them up though. He was an All-Pro before.
Ejected from games. He's been a storyline.
So are so many wide receivers though. So many wide receivers.
But he is not AJ Brown. He's not like, who else do we talk about like this? Like Tyreek Hill has been the best receiver in the NFL.
His new
AJ Brown has been the best
Pickens.
receiver in the Like guys who do what DK does and get away with it have been the best receiver in the NFL. DK has never even been in the top 3 or 5 conversation. He hasn't. You can't back it up with both tape. And again, the flashes are so high, but if you're going to be fair, you need to bring in, yes, this is why he's been great, but also like the weird concentration drops and the times where he like hits a guy in the face because he's mad for something that he started. Like, that's what I'm saying. I love the skill set, but like for this guy who's setting the standard in your room, like we got on KJ Osborne for tweeting that he wasn't supposed to play in a game. What do you think happens if they've lost 3 out of their first 5 games and DK's throwing tantrums on the field?
Oh, it would have been toxic. But if he's producing, then I don't think that that's a worthy critique of him, which I think he would.
And that's always the balance you strike. And that is always the balance you strike. And that's where I understand people are going to completely disagree. And I don't think I'm right. I'm just saying I wouldn't have been comfortable with it.
I look at the 5 years versus 3 years, and I see a 27-year-old wide receiver who would be 32 at the end of the deal, and that's no problem for me. And I get wanting 3 instead of 5 for more eventual flexibility when you have to gonna pay Drake May and things like that. But I also wonder if you do bring DK Metcalf here and you do make this trade, does that make Chris Godwin more enticed to sign here? Because, okay, now I can work off this guy and we can have a better wide receiver room and we can win games more too. Like that, bringing in a guy that has this type of skill set and is that good and would be one of your better players also helps your team become more of a desirable destination.
I think that's fair. I do. And that's why I do think that like Ronnie Stanley, I think that's a big loss because I don't 100%. Think Cam Robinson or Dan Moore moves the needle enough for you to be like, look what we're building here. Chris Godwin is a step in that direction, but like offensively and even defensively without Sherwood, I think it hurts. Like I do not think they now can make that move in a way that I'm very comfortable with. But I will say, we talk about DK. Like this is why I say I don't want them to be desperate. Because, okay, what if they draft Tet? What if they trade back and they get Tet and they have Tet and Godwin? They don't win in the exact same ways. But when you talk about DK, what do you talk about? He's a deep threat and he makes some crazy catches, right? And he's a
contested catch guy, physical, that type of guy. Yeah.
Tet gives you, he does not have the same speed. He gives you more elusiveness after the catch. He gives you a more diverse route tree. He gives you, I would say, I don't know if it's as much alignment versatility because like, it's kind of the same where DK shouldn't be lined up inside all the time and he's better outside. Tet's better on the inside, but he can play outside. He's just not best there. But like for a guy who's on a rookie deal, who is a good kid, he's smart, he wants to grow with a young quarterback, and he can't say shit about coming to Massachusetts because he's going to get drafted here and he has to come here regardless. And I'm not saying like Pittsburgh exactly is like the most ideal place to be, but like they have Tomlin too. Tomlin is in the playoffs every year. Like, it's not exactly the same situation, but either way, I'm just saying, if you want a wide receiver so badly, even if it's at 4, I'd rather take Tet, who gives.
I was going to say, so you'd rather them draft Tet at 4 than have made this trade?
Yeah.
Oh man!
If you also get like Cam Robinson or Dan Moore, and then your second round pick is a tackle, hell yeah. Also, like,
I just think you take the proven guy. You just take the guy who's proved to play good football before.
You will not find a single scouting report on Ted McMillan that says he is not going to be a Pro Bowl receiver or does not have Pro Bowl upside.
Okay, but that's still working off potential.
Yes, but we know what DK Metcalf is, and what DK Metcalf is a distraction and an inconsistent player. Yes, he's productive. Yes, he's
48 touchdown, very productive. He's been very productive ever since he's been in the league.
Yeah, but I'd rather spend all this resources another time for another player. Drake May is in his second season. I want him to get a great offensive line, and as much as I want the good receivers, DK Metcalf is not going to be the reason that Drake May doesn't reach the next level. I'm sorry. There's going to be somebody else.
He can certainly be a reason that helps him get there.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. But
it's
don't think
fun when we disagree. This is spicy. Pat's Daily. It's fun.
Like, people, okay, everyone wants to talk about what DK does well, and yes, he absolutely does a lot well, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think Drake is so dependent on, like, and I can't even really call DK a go-to necessarily, because, again, he's not consistent enough to be a go-to. And he has absolute strengths, and again, I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I think the Patriots can find really good production elsewhere. I think they can get the production they'll get from DK somewhere else.
This has become a pretty polarizing thing, especially now that we have numbers and draft trade compensation on him, because I think everybody would want them to have made the deal, and we would have talked ourselves into it if they didn't, and then vice versa now that they haven't. I think ultimately you just hope, like you said, if they do nothing else at the position, then you can look back on this and say, well, if you weren't going to do anything else, take a dart throw somewhere else. So there's still more things to happen. We still have tomorrow, noontime, opens the negotiation period. So hopefully, they do end up throwing a bag at Chris Godwin, or they do, maybe pry or go get Darius Slayton or somebody like that. But for right now, it feels like a miss, at least in my opinion.
Okay, so Ayuk should be part of this equation.
Okay.
What if you get Ayuk at a cheaper contract for a third-round pick? He's younger. He is a more yes, he blew out his ACL and MCL. If he has a Chris Godwin type bounce back, right? Chris Godwin was, I think, he was about the same age, I think, when it actually happened to him. So if he has a Chris Godwin type bounce back where he does get some of his explosiveness back after a year or two, you're first off talking about one of the best route runners in the NFL, one of the most savvy players, I'd say, after the catch and at the catch point. Like, I would take Ayuk, who, yes, he absolutely comes with his own issues as well, but it's not going to be at that insane contract because, again, ideally San Francisco would have to fork up something for him. It's not at the same capital, and it's a guy who can still make Pro Bowls and be, an all-pro if he's healthy. I would find someone like Ayuk more palatable than DK for 5 years, $150 million. Like, this is not nothing. This is a big contract. And he's never been a number one receiver. Like, he's not. It's always been like the balance of
him
Metcalf
and Lockett and him
right?
and then they had and JSN last year as well. So no, there's always been a guy there. I don't disagree
Ayuk
with that.
Like, Ayuk was the one where it's like, oh, if you take Ayuk out of the 49ers offense, like, they might kind of be screwed. And what happened when Ayuk got hurt?
Well, they also ended up losing everybody at the same time. So that was,
but it's like less impact from Ayuk was very noticeable. And it's always those Shanahan offenses need the X receiver who can win those one-on-one matchups.
Right.
However you deploy it. Ayuk was that guy in a long line of guys where it was Julio Jones before him. I think it was Pierre Garçon before that. Like, that's all I'm saying is, you could even talk about Ayuk, and if they get him next week, you really think people are going to be mad that he's not DK Metcalf? I agree with that. I would reserve the opinion on DK if they do end up going and getting Brandon Ayuk. Now, he signed also T. Higgins is still an option.
T. Higgins is still an option, I think, too. That's something we can actually throw up here from the chat too. With a super chat, Tim, we appreciate it. But Tim says all good receivers coming off the board. Any chance we think Higgins again? That is something that, he hasn't signed an extension yet. He is just straight up on the franchise tag. I wonder if they're waiting on a Trey Hendrickson deal, then they can kind of free up some money and move something around. But as of right now, I think he's still very much for the taking. And again, I would pull back my DK take right now if they go trade for T. Higgins and sign him to a 5-year, $150 million contract extension. On Ayuk quickly before I get thoughts on Higgins, and then we move forward into what tomorrow could bring. Ayuk signed a 4-year, $120 million deal with San Francisco last year. So he's making 30 per for the next 3 years, just like DK would be, except for 5 years. So, but same AAV. Would you do it if San Francisco wasn't going to eat up any cash? Would you pay Ayuk for $30 million
I'd
for
give
the
a
next 3
fourth
years?
if they're not going to eat any cash.
What if it was a 3?
No.
Okay.
I don't even think this deal would consider the Patriots paying all of it. Because I think they understand what a huge risk it is, regardless of the compensation. Like, if Ayuk is literally never the same and loses, and I think this is highly unlikely, obviously, but they could end up on the books for somebody who is never the same player. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it's too much of a risk. They're paying something. And I think the difference is, are we going to pay a lot of it or like a significant amount, almost half-ish, and then we get a higher third-round pick? Or is it going to be we get the second, third-round pick and you pay for more? I think that's what it comes down to.
And I do wonder if he has a change of heart, because he was in the same boat last year of a Calvin Ridley that they didn't really want to play in New England. And that's the hard part of this whole conversation. Nobody wants to freaking play here. We talked about it with Giardi on Wednesday.
DK, if he wanted to play here, I'm sorry I cut you off. I'm buzzing, but if he wanted to play here, I'd feel totally differently. The guy literally made fun of the idea of even coming here.
He did say it was a good organization. Man. He did say it was a good organization.
Good organization, but he made fun of like the whole of even like the environment. And I know that's not the end all be all, but like if you're gonna pay that much money, again with Ayuk, at least you're not paying the same amount of money. He probably doesn't have a lot of options because he's coming off an injury. So it's very different from DK, who had his probably say in where he wanted to go. I'm sure this ultimately just came down to money. I don't think he had no say, because I think John Snyder is a guy who tries to accommodate his players as much as he can. Sure. But yeah, like this whole situation, I didn't feel good about it as much as I tried to talk myself into it. Go on my timeline. I tried. I put up the deep wins. I talked about why he would fit. I couldn't. And yes, I'll be wrong if they don't do anything. I'm not even wrong because I said whatever. Let me stop talking.
I'm that's okay. Me and Taylor are going to agree to disagree and wrap up the DK segment. I would have done it. I think it was worth the money. They have it. Taylor says, and there's no reason to, it's backed up with different opinions, but didn't want them to do it. At any rate, DK Metcalf goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second-round pick and signs a whopping 5-year, $150 million contract extension. We do have a new member in the chat, Zach. We appreciate it. We have a new premium subscription service here at Patriots Press Pass, and we're going to tell you about that right now. We'll play a quick video to show you what you could see if you do end up signing up. Then we'll tell you about the tiers, and then we will wrap up this show looking forward as to what we can expect from the Patriots from this free agency. So this is what one segment, just a quick hitter, what it could look like if you do end up signing up. So here's a look.
Over the past half decade, the Patriots have had one of the worst wide receiving cores in the entire NFL. Since Julian Edelman was able to catch 100 balls for over 1,100 yards back in 2019, the Patriots wide receivers have combined for the fewest yards per reception, the fewest receiving touchdowns, and they're tied for the second most fumbles lost. Now this offseason, with Mike Vrabel at head coach and Drake May seeming to be the future at quarterback, the Patriots seem like they could spend their over $120 million in cap space and finally address the wide receiver position. However, there is one potential name that's set to hit the free agent market who could fit a lot of needs the Patriots have in their wide receiver room. While he may not be the hero that New England deserves, he is absolutely the hero it needs right now. Longtime Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin is set to hit the market and be the top free agent wide receiver available. Now, he's getting up there in age as he's going to be 29 years old, but he's not going to turn 30 until February. Now, last season, Drake May lacked a go-to wide receiver who we could rely on in critical situations and when plays broke down. But these types of plays are all over Chris Godwin's tape, and they have been for a very long time. Take this 3rd and 7 from the season opener against Washington. Godwin's initial route actually brings him into coverage, but he sees Baker Mayfield in trouble, works towards space over the middle, and gives his quarterback a target to move the chain. If you want to see the rest of my in-depth film review on Chris Godwin, make sure to become a premium member of our Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel. Those who subscribe for the All-Pro or GOAT tiers have access to all my film review breakdowns throughout free agency and the NFL draft.
So that's what it looks like, Taylor. Thank you for the sneak peek. Now, that was just a minute 30 clip of, I think, an 8-minute video that you were able to put together. Taylor?
Oh, no, I just show up and look pretty.
That's fair. Taylor did the work, then Ahmed did the real work, spent plenty of time detailing that and getting it out. So if you want to check it out, head over to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube membership. There are 3 tiers: rookie, starter, all pro, and GOAT status. We'll have a ton of good stuff coming up on the channel. So if you want to join, please check it out. We appreciate it. You get all those custom emojis. You can make fun of us. You can really get in on the action here on Press Pass. So again, we are offering memberships with bonus content, so make sure you go check it out. So one more thing around free agency before we just get into a quick preview for tomorrow, Taylor. The Patriots are, is this right? Yeah. Patriots are expected to show interest in right tackle Morgan Moses. Now, this came from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. Morgan Moses signed a 1-year deal with the Jets last year. He is not going to re-sign with them, at least not until tomorrow or Wednesday. So he will hit free agency. He will be able to be negotiated with. He's on the older side, but could serve as a potential bridge to Caden Wallace, who Mike Reese put in his Sunday notes this morning, is sort of looked at as someone who they want to try and solidify at right tackle. So Morgan Moses goes to free agency. Do you think the Patriots, what type of interest should they show in this guy?
I think they should go as aggressively as they can after Morgan Moses. He's one of the only experienced, proven right tackles on the market. I think he might actually be the only one. It's like him and Kendall Lamb, who's mostly been a backup, although Lamb does have some experience with the Patriots coaching. He was actually on the Titans. He was on the Titans for a season.
Oh,
so he has experience with Landry and Jason Hufftailing. So there's an overlap there. And he was one of the more solid right tackles, especially in terms of pass pro. Big presence. Him and Mike Nwenu would be chef's kiss. Would literally be the best player I think Big Mike has played next to in his career. When did Trent Brown move to left? Was he? I think he was on the right when he was a rookie, wasn't he? Because Wynn was
might have, yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
so he'll
that's
be the
correct,
best.
Yeah.
He'll be the best player that Mike Nwenu has played next to since Trent Brown. He's not close, but I think he's still a really good player. Great mentor for Caden Wallace as well. I thought I at least mentioned earlier today that Morgan Moses should be a guy they pursue feverishly. And thanks to Diana Rossini, we know at least they're on the same page.
Yep. So that is what it looks like, at least what we know for the Patriots heading into tomorrow. We did get a new member during that. We appreciate it. Laughing Thunder, thank you for becoming a member on the channel. We really do appreciate it. We do have a couple super chats that we'll get through before we wrap this thing up. We did talk about that one. Walter Mello, thank you for the super chat. And he asks, away from offensive tackle, Chris Godwin and Milton Williams, who is the next free agent you want the Patriots to sign?
This is actually a perfect segue into the segment we were talking about, which is
yes,
who the hell is left in free agency? So
exactly.
We're actually going to pull up PFF's free agent rankings, which is my favorite tool when it comes to the offseason and free agency, to see who's even still on the market. So let's take a scroll through some of the top guys. T. Higgins has been franchise tagged, trying to get a new deal, but either way, you're at least going to have to trade something to get him. Was Trey Smith signed to a new deal? Did they reach an extension, or was it a tag?
I want to say they just tagged him. I don't think they signed an extension.
You do the background check.
I will.
Double sure. Javon Holland is now probably, he is the best free agent on the market, but because of position, he's not going to make the most money. Obviously, the Patriots would highly benefit from a guy like Javon Holland who can be that center fielder and fill different roles. He was kind of like Duggar last season in terms of being a guy known as a playmaker who didn't do much in terms of high quality reps last season, but he was.
They did not sign Trey Smith to an extension.
Okay, so it was a franchise tag. Yeah. Yes. So 2 guys. I think T. Higgins will still be in on Trey Smith. I don't even know if they were already going to be in. Probably won't now. Javon Holland just still with Duggar and Peppers. I would be surprised if they signed another starting safety. Chris Godwin seems like he's going to be the king of free agency. Patriots are probably going to throw $25 million, 3 years at least at him. So that's a name to look out for. Khalil Mack, probably not going to be in the market, even though Terrell Williams coached him in Vegas. Was it Vegas then, or was it Oakland? Well, he coached him with the Raiders. Khalil Mack's rookie year. I have no idea.
Oh, that was Oakland. I think it was Oakland.
Self-thought spiral. I won't do it. DJ Reed, another guy the Patriots are supposed to be in on. Super sticky, has played opposite the top corner in Sauce Gardner and still been one of the league's more competitive cornerbacks. They're going to be in on him. Amari Cooper, they will not be in on, according to Doug Kyde and Andrew Callahan. Ronnie Stanley off the market. Sam Darnold not in their wheelhouse. Josh Sweat apparently is not going to be a guy the Patriots are in on, according to Doug and Andrew, but also with Harold Landry now being in tow.
Right.
Obviously, Sweat's a better player, but they're more familiar with Landry, so try to just get your pass rusher in the draft. Stephon Diggs is not coming back to Houston, which makes sense with Christian Kirk in his addition, but thought before that happened that he might go back. Is he one of the guys that Doug and Andrew
He was
said
listed as someone who they wouldn't go after, yeah. I wonder if that changes, though, now that he is going to, actually hit the open market with Kirk going there.
Yeah, we'll see. Hassan Reddick, he's drama. I don't think they'll be interested. Various Ward. So you got quarterback is really where I think we're looking and seeing Osa Odigizua. He's off the market. Cam Bynum, again, he's a starting young safety. I don't know if they're going to want to sign those kind of guys. Milt Williams, Chris Godwin, DJ Reed, Byron Murphy Jr., who's right here. And who did I just miss? And Travarius Ward. Those are going to be now, here's an interesting one. Malcolm Kuntz. Now, they don't need to sign him. I don't know if he's actually going to command $19 million after the injury he had last year. But Josh McDaniels coached him in Las Vegas, a guy who fits them schematically. Would they want to replace someone like Anthony Jennings with Malcolm Kuntz? How much faith do they have in Keon White being a potential edge guy? What do you think about this? I think this could be, I don't think they'll be interested, but it's at least interesting to talk about.
It's definitely an interesting one, like on a 2-year deal, someone who is only 26 years old, going on 27 now. I just wonder, is that like, that doesn't seem splash worthy enough to me, just as far as being excited about it or not. But then I look at free agency and kind of how we're going to set this up for tomorrow is it's not a great class. It's just not. There are the premier guys at the top who were Stanley and T. Higgins and Trey Smith, and they are all going back to their teams. And then you have these next tier guys in Godwin, in Milton Williams, who these are the guys they should be in on right now. And I think that they will be. I wonder with the money they have, if it's going to change things, if they're going to overspend. And that's kind of what tomorrow we'll wait and see and, what it's going to bring. But on Kuntz and on just these guys in general, look, I'll take it because it means they're spending money on guys who they think can be high quality players. I don't want them to kick the can down the road again like they did last year. I want them to spend this money on guys at least not
the can down the road, or was it just like it is this year where there weren't that last year's class was worse? I think last year's class.
Well, that's fair, but that's also kind of what I mean, where they did their due diligence, but they didn't overspend because they thought the class was bad. I don't want them to spend just to spend. I want them to spend because they want to bring guys in.
And let's also remember, like with the Commanders last year, like who did they re-sign? All the veteran signings were guys that Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, and their staff already had worked with. So, like, yes, it's a great, yes, they could have signed all these veterans. No one had worked with Gerard Mayo. I don't think a lot of guys were buying what he was selling. And knowing what we know now, we're even more, and I'm not trying to like defend last year. I'm over that. Sure. But I'm just saying, like, I think the whole Vrabel element of this, like we're already seeing it, will help them to some degree because they will have guys they're connected with. Terrell Williams can pick the scraps from the Lions defensive line. Like I think they're going to have more avenues to spend the money. And I just think there's better players. Jamie and Sherwood's a big hit, but defensively, I think they can get some difference makers for real. We'll see if they end up actually pouncing.
Yep, 100%.
Dre Greenlaw, another name at linebacker now in that same, they've been wanting, it seems like they're interested in this solid style of defense with the 49ers, with the Jets. In the corners, they want DJ Reed, they want Charvarius Ward. Jamie and Sherwood, Dre Greenlaw, obviously you're off of injury, but he makes a lot of sense too. Is there anybody who has I don't think anybody on their staff has ever been on the 49ers, have they? No, I don't think so. They're all guys.
Yeah. Dre Green, who was the linebacker for the 49ers who left? It wasn't
Devondre Campbell.
Oh, Campbell left because Greenlaw took his spot when he came back from injury. Yeah, okay. I was making sure that there wasn't that there. Jason Semler is a new YouTube member. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Welcome to it. You get to see all of our fun behind the scenes stuff moving forward. So this was a fun 50 minutes, Taylor. I think, well, let me see.
You just want to get out of here and watch White Lotus, you slacker.
I'd say I'm actually not a White Lotus guy yet. I haven't done.
Oh, I'm shocked. Actually, no. What'd you think of the last Severance episode? Are you caught up?
Yes, I watched it last week. I won't give spoilers. Are you in
If we can
Severance?
give spoilers. If you haven't watched it by now, it's your fault.
So you're a Severance guy?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Nice.
man.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
I got
that. Okay.
excited. It wasn't just because TV. Actually, we won't give spoilers
Oh,
because that. I will say I didn't love the episode for most of it because I didn't love Cobell. I didn't think she was that interesting.
yeah.
The reveal, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that flipped it. I'm like, okay. I thought the show was maybe gonna miss one episode. They did not.
So the last 2 episodes were very like, Breaking Bad. Are you a Breaking Bad guy too?
Yeah.
You know the Fly episode of Breaking Bad where it's just like
Bottle episode.
It's a bottle. That's the name of it. Both were sort of bottles where they tell the backstory of two different characters, and I think that's why binging is best because like you spend all week waiting for one episode, and it's just like a 45-minute backstory, and like not a ton happens, but it gives you a lot of background that's going to set up the rest of the show.
Damn, I think we should actually do maybe like a Severance pod. I feel like that'd be fun. I would argue the flashback episode that was centered around the couple. I don't think that was bottle because it was so much stuff.
That's true.
So it's debatable. Is it still a bottle episode if it's like one location, but it's not like one set? Because do you know why they make bottle episodes?
Yeah, it's for money, right?
Yeah, because usually at some point they're like, we need to save money. But
right.
I think also, did you see like the behind the episode of like where
I
they
didn't watch
were?
the behind.
Dude, it's crazy. It's like they were in like another country. In like it was this just desolate area, and they were like, "Yeah, this place was so depressing." We were like, "We have to shoot here."
For the Cobell episode, the last one.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Like
an actual town,
because you can tell that it's like you said, it's a depressed state. Like there's not much going on. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Okay, that's fascinating.
Wow. If anybody else is watching also Paradise. Maybe if we I'm having so many ideas. I want to watch Paradise. So if you want another show to watch, maybe we can sync up on that.
Okay, we'll sync up on Paradise. We'll do a special Paradise episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast. But
Snowfall is also fantastic. Highly recommend to everybody. The show's over. Oh my dude.
Breaking Bad level good, huh?
Dude, there was an episode that was honestly like it's discretion's advised. There's an episode that was so graphic. Liz and I love the show. She had to like not watch a part of it. It's like we can curse. It's fucked up. It's crazy, bro.
It's Hulu.
Like, it's a nuts show.
All right, I'm gonna put that on my list because Breaking Bad has always been my GOAT show. Severance is getting awfully close, which is crazy to say because I am like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, that universe through and through. Severance is insane in a good way. For Snowfall to, at least according to Bolsa, be on Breaking Bad level, that tells me I need to watch it. So
last thing.
Yes.
Did you
going.
like I'm trying to think. Are you like The Office, Parks and Rec? Did you watch those?
I know that Adam Scott was in. Was it
not
Parks
even
and
that,
Rec?
but like, do you know like that style of show? Like
yes,
The Office,
yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So Shrinking. I think you've seen me tweet about it, dude. It is literally the same idea of like it's a workplace comedy, but everyone like encourages each other and it's really heartwarming, but like some real shit happens also. Like it's much more intense than those shows ever got because it's not on network TV. It's Harrison Ford's best work. I think he is better than he's ever been in anything. I think the cast is perfect. Like it's just like one of those shows that you turn on and like you just feel good and you love everybody and you're super invested. So if you want like a low-key show that is like you can throw it on, you don't have to pay super close attention, but it's entertaining and makes you feel good. Shrinking for you and everybody out there. Excellent show.
What's it on?
It's on Apple TV. Bro, they drop bangers, man.
They do.
Apple TV doesn't miss. They're sneaky.
Severance became the #1 Apple TV show past Ted Lasso last week. That's wild.
That's insane. Because
Ted
Lasso was like
a monster.
But it's also becoming a cultural icon.
I know. It's legit. So, all right. Well, I guess we should wrap with quick thoughts. Just one thing for tomorrow. I will say that we're going to be on the channel tomorrow at some point. We don't have it fully planned out, but we will be reacting live to all the free agency stuff. It may be a crew of 3 of us. It may be 2 of us. But long story short, we'll be here. So rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, sign up for our membership tiers as well. We plugged it earlier, but there are 3 tiers, and we have a ton of exclusive premium content coming up, especially through free agency. So make sure you hang out check that out. And if you want to join, feel free to. If not, Patriots Daily will always be free on the channel. So what's one thing you're looking for tomorrow, Taylor, for the Patriots to do before we get out of here? What is like your A1, what they absolutely have to do for you to be happy?
Sign Chris Godwin, sign
Okay.
Milton Williams. I mean, like, sign, because I will say Godwin or Darius Slayton, because I will also say with Chris Godwin, we don't know when he's even going to play, when he's going to be on the field of practice. So I do think he comes with inherent risk. If you don't sign him or Slayton, I'm legitimately nervous. I like Nick Westbrook-Akine. I don't think he's ever been productive enough to be a guy that you're like, oh, I look up to this guy. And if Malik Neighbors is going out of his way and saying Darius Slayton showed me how to be a pro, I'm going to listen to that guy, even if he isn't quite as accomplished. Like, you still know he's a pro's pro. Right. I want that. Defensively, you need to get one of these playmaking cornerbacks. Linebacker now becomes shaky. I feel like it's like Spillane and Greenlaw. You're probably not going to get the impact signing you wanted there. And Milton Williams needs to be a Patriot this time tomorrow. Like, that's a non-negotiable for me. If they lose out on him, I will be severely disappointed. I understand. And I will say real quick, I'm sorry. I know there was pushback because Milton Williams like took off as a pass rusher this year, like never had double-digit pass rush win rate, and then was at like almost 18%, was like top 5 in the NFL. I will say, one, you've seen the flashes. Like, he's had high quality wins in the past. He bats passes. He's like really smart and instinctive. And the thing is, he broke out as a pass rusher this year, even though there were still flashes, but he was a run defender in other years. This year was his worst year as a run defender. He was one of the league's better run stoppers on the inside his last couple seasons. So with a guy like Terrell Williams, who's one of the most renowned defensive coaches in the NFL, 2 pass rush specialists, like guys who've done it at this, been defensive line coaches before, even playing experience with Mike Smith. I think Milton Williams, hopefully in this system, becomes a well-rounded player where, even if he isn't winning 18% of his pass rushes, the guy is still well-rounded. He's making plays behind the line of scrimmage. Maybe you got to rotate him. Maybe he's never going to be like 1,000-snap guy or however many snaps defensive tackles play. I don't know. But like, you need guys who make plays behind the line. Like Mike Vrabel said, we want to live behind the line of scrimmage. That's a philosophical shift. There is no one that you're going to find who has the tape, the youth, and the upside that Milton Williams does. I'm just making the case right now. Like, seriously.
I think that's the A1.
Make it happen.
I think that's top priority number 1. I get Godwin. I get Slayton. I get finding a left tackle. But with all of the other top options there on the board, like at wide receiver, Higgins is off the board. DK is now off the board. Maybe Ayuk is there, but those are sort of the plan B guys already in Godwin. I think Godwin's sort of a 1A plan, but Milton Williams is the top defensive tackle on the board, and he's still there for the taking. He's going to command a lot of money, but you have it. You need help in the trenches. Go get it. It's that simple. And then worry about the rest later and fill in the rest. So here's to hoping that by 12:01 tomorrow, we're sitting here on the channel talking about Milton Williams becoming the Patriots' next starting defensive tackle.
Hopefully not Wilton Milton.
Sure. Hopefully not Wilton Milton. Any rate, review, subscribe, hang out with us here. Press Pass, new memberships. We got it all going here. It's going to be fun. It's an exciting week for the Patriots, even if you're not as sold on some of the signings. But they did sign Harold Landry, 3 years, $43.5 million. They did re-sign Austin Hooper for 1 year, $5 million. They swing and miss on DK Metcalf if they swung at all. So we'll be here all week. So tune in, keep it here. Rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And until tomorrow, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you tomorrow for a fun free agency friendly. Peace out, everyone.